When I came out of law school, I joined a law firm, and I was doing a certain kind of practice, which was environmental pollution coverage work. And I went into it because I thought I really liked the underlying idea behind the work, which was around, fighting big polluters and feeling good about that on some sort of moral and ethical basis. But I realized the actual work itself I didn't like. There were these massive multi-billion-dollar cases, and I was a very junior person on these big cases, and I wasn't getting the sort of responsibility that I wanted. And so then I left that practice and actually went to a smaller practice for a much larger law firm, Baker McKenzie, but really where I was doing my own casework and I was trying my own cases. I had my own engagements one-on-one with our clients, and our clientele were typically international customers, many of them from Asia, and that sort of began my connection there. I hadn't really planned to leave private practice so early. I left it only after 3 years out of law school, but I was recruited to join, like many people who came out of the Bay Area, I was recruited to join a startup. In this case, it was a startup that was a spinoff from the former Reuters company. And so I went and I joined them. And part of that was, it wasn't something I was expecting to do, but it seemed as if I missed that window of opportunity. I didn't know if it was going to come back. I didn't know when it might come back. And so even though I was quite happy, I took that big change. Once I was inside a company, the sort of journey of being a lawyer inside a company and being to where I am today, where I'm leading a business, it's all quite a natural progression. I think people who are very good inside business are people who are multiplayers, who play different kinds of roles. And one of the pieces of advice that I received very early on as a young in-house lawyer at that point, so this was about 4 years into my career, was to really think about what are you good at and what is your personal brand. And so very early on, I identified that one of my skills was fixing problems. And if there were big challenges, I wanted to be known as the kind of person the company could send to fix it, no matter what it was. And so that manifested itself in many different roles that I served with then Reuters and then with Thomson Reuters. So after we had the IPO and we spun off this company called TIPCO, which is still public today, I helped fold the part of the business that we kept back into Reuters. I then began a career as a media lawyer during some very interesting times, including during the Iraq War, and had some very difficult situations to resolve then. I did a lot of international practice for the company and oftentimes was sent to handle difficult situations in different parts of the world. And throughout the different roles that I had in Asia and elsewhere in the world for the company, one consistent theme was, again, if there was something that needed to be fixed, if there was a difficult challenge that we as a company needed to do, I would go and take care of it. I got asked quite frequently, would you be willing to run a business? Would you like to run a business? And I said, well, for the right one, I would. And so then this opportunity to run our China business came up. And it was frankly one of the biggest professional challenges that I had been given because it's quite a sizable business. It is complex. It is in a very difficult market to operate in. And it would be my first general management role. And I remember talking with my wife, Erica, and going through all the different positive and negatives to taking on this role. And the one thing that I really latched onto was, one, I did think the company needed me to do this. Two, I thought that I could bring value to the process and that I could really help people to get this business to the next stage of where it should be on its own growth path and its own development as a business. And I thought, wow, I'm going to learn such incredible things by doing it. It won't be easy. And who knew if I was going to be successful or not? There was a high risk of failure. When you're a general manager and you own a P&L, quite different from being an advisor or a consultant or a lawyer, I think you can always sort of view yourself as being a little bit on the sidelines. I think good lawyers and advisors do not do that, but there is still a part of you that has, I think, a little bit of psychic relief that you're not ultimately the person who owns the financial result of what happens. But for those of us who own P&Ls, I think there's an incredible sense of responsibility that you feel. And partly to the corporation for entrusting you, but I think for most people it's really about success as a business means success for all the people who work for you. All the people whose salaries and whose bonuses and whose commissions depend on your success as a business roll up to you. And all the people who rely upon those people to be successful are also counting on you. And to me, I had really never owned that level of responsibility before. And so to me, it really made me appreciate more how difficult and how special it is to have leadership of that level. And so it's been an incredible learning experience for me, and it continues to be.